Congress for more than 33 years. Think about that for a second. Lewis's funeral will be held tomorrow, and that is when he will go to his final resting place following his death that was 12 days ago at the age of 80.
Congressman Lewis is being honored for his lifelong fight for freedom and justice. He often spoke of the value of what he called good trouble. Let's listen into the ceremony there.
Ready, step. 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 Up, forward, walk.
Guard carrying the body of the late Congressman John Lewis down the steps of the U.S. Capitol, where he was the first black lawmaker to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda, according to congressional historians. We should note that Representative Elijah Cummings made history as the first black lawmaker to lie in state in the Capitol in Statuary Hall, but Lewis the first to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. Let's bring in our congressional correspondent, Nancy Cordes. Nancy, what can you tell us about this historic ceremony?
Well, Anthony, I can tell you that it is with a heavy heart that lawmakers bid farewell for the final time to their beloved colleague, John Lewis. Here on the east front of the Capitol, his family members are now walking from the hearse to the buses that will take them to Andrews Air Force Base, behind the casket of the late John Lewis. They will accompany him to Atlanta. And a very moving sight. Just beyond that, on the Capitol steps, about 50 or 60 House members gathered here to watch this solemn ceremony. Some of them saluted, some waved, some took pictures. This is a man who was very dear to him. He served in Congress for 33 years. He was a personal hero to many of them, even before he came to Congress or they did. So a very emotional send-off, and an emotional send-off really for thousands of people in this city who had the opportunity over the past couple of days to come here and bear witness, to walk past the casket as it stood at the top of the east steps here at the U.S. Capitol, at times the line snaking all the way around the U.S. Supreme Court. Even in the July heat, people told me they just wanted to have an opportunity to say goodbye to a man who had done so many great things in his life so that they could have a better life.
Yeah, it's quite a tribute, Nancy. And the heat in Washington in July is brutal, I know. As you said, there was quite a turnout out front of the Capitol of legislators. I saw Senator McConnell there, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senator Schumer as well. This has been an extraordinary tribute lasting days to a congressman, as you mentioned, who served 33 years. And in fact, he generally was reelected without much opposition or significant opposition. But his initial race, I was reminded, was actually a very close one. He ran against Julian Bond for the Democratic nomination in his district, who was also, of course, a very prominent civil rights leader. And Julian Bond won the first round, but it was in the runoff. Congressman Lewis prevailed, and he's been an icon in Congress ever since, Nancy.
Right. I think he's been elected with no less than 70% of the vote in all 16 or 17 of his most recent races. And you're right about how hard fought that initial primary was. It caught the attention of the nation. And in the process of that campaign, at one point, Lewis raised the possibility that Julian Bond had used drugs. He urged him to get a drug test. And after the fact, Lewis admitted that was pretty out of keeping with his character, said he wished he hadn't done it. And the way that he conducted himself thereafter here in Congress really was sort of above reproach. He was someone who spoke with the passion that was informed by decades in the civil rights movement, and his many of his colleagues have talked about this sort of moral clarity that he had, that he brought to the political debate. And so, there aren't that many members left here on Capitol Hill who have that same kind of stature, who are obviously a part of politics, but who are viewed as somehow above politics at the same time. And that is going to be sorely missed here on Capitol Hill.
Nancy, you said something the other day that I haven't forgotten because I thought it was so true. You said that John Lewis wore his icon status very lightly. And I was very struck by that because all the people that know him say that he never bragged, he never boasted, he was a humble, simple man, according to his family, that he just wanted justice for everybody, and that he really fought for justice until his body simply gave out. But I thought you captured him so brilliantly when you talked about John Lewis. I've been thinking about him a lot these last couple of days, because we had one of the last interviews with him about how kind and how pure-hearted he was. And I thought you really captured it in a way that I hadn't heard before.
Well, thanks, Gail. I think part of it was that he was the first person to break out dancing if he had the opportunity, and that's not something you see very often here on Capitol Hill. He didn't mind getting a little silly. At the same time, he didn't mind scolding you if he felt that you were getting too far down into the weeds, if you were trying to drag him into the political back and forth and the latest tweet and so on. He sort of existed on a different plane, if you will. And so he sort of conveyed that he didn't really have time for some of that nonsense, although he certainly had time to have fun.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton told us when we were talking to the Clintons that please don't ignore John Lewis's sense of humor. You talk about dancing. His favorite song was Pharrell's Happy, that he loved that. That was his favorite song. He would break out into dance at any time that came on. And she talked about what a good friend he was. Here's John Lewis, who showed up at Costco at a book signing just to support her. He was that kind of man.
Right, and he was someone who had already secured his place in history. So he didn't come here to Congress, like so many lawmakers do, looking for that one way, that one breakout moment that he was going to make his mark. He was already secure in the fact that he had done that. And so he could certainly lend his stature to causes that he believed in very passionately, but he wasn't looking for a moment of cheap applause. He simply didn't need it. And he understood the power of his stature when it came to issues like gay rights, civil rights, the rights of immigrants, really the rights of anyone who was downtrodden and needed a helping hand. But he didn't feel that he needed to be the center of attention all the time.
Yeah.
So the late Congressman John Lewis on his way to Atlanta, where funeral services will be held at Ebenezer Baptist Church, which, of course, was where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Congressman Lewis's mentor, was the co-pastor. Those will happen in the next days. Nancy, thank you very much. Our coverage will continue on our 24-hour streaming network, CBSN. You can watch it at cbsnews.com or on our CBS News app. There will be more.